that Alphabet has.
And we're so used to Amazon just piling all the money back into investment in this business. Looking more profitable is, an exciting thing here.
Yeah, I mean, look, Amazon is still plowing almost every dollar it gets back into their investments. But the point is, because they're improving the gross margin, they have the ability to be more profitable.
Pretty impressive. Great work, really, Shira. It's great to have you here. That's Shira Ovide of Bloomberg Gadfly. And coming up next on Bloomberg Markets, The Open, James Barney of Bank of America Merrill Lynch and Chad Morganlander of Washington Crossing Advisors. They'll be joining Jonathan Ferro right here on Bloomberg.
Nobody's putting their money into equities. They're not investing in commodities.
Okay, it's April 27th, 2018 at 8:56 a.m. Once again, it's April 27th, 8:56 a.m. 2018. We're looking out of the windows of 255 West 43rd Street, 6-4. We're looking direction northwest at the Twin Chimneys, operated by John's Pizzeria, located at 260 West 44th Street.
signs have that we're past the peak. I think it's going to be a one-quarter slowdown, and then spring will come along in Spain, France, Germany, the UK, as well as America.
Joining us around the table here in New York is George Rusnak, Wells Fargo Investment Institute Global Fixed Income Strategy Co-Head, James Barty, making it over from London, Bank of America Merrill Lynch Global Cross-Asset Head, and Chad Morganlander, Washington Crossing Advisors Portfolio Manager. So George, over to you first of all. What did you make of the print this morning?
Good GDP numbers, and in fact, in Q1, normally we've seen actually weaker GDP numbers. So if you extrapolate that out, we expect that to pick up, just given seasonality effects in Q2 and throughout the rest of the year. And also you have obviously fiscal stimulus coming on board. So overall, a good number.
Everyone's trying to work out what on earth Q1 is about here in the United States. But James, the backdrop to all of this is price pressures bubbling away, the employment cost index, core PCE as well. We're pretty much there for the Fed, aren't we?
We're getting there. We're probably going to print 2%, thereabouts next week. So yeah, they're up towards their target. But they've been wanting to get there for a period of time. If you bear in mind, back in February 2016, people were saying they're never going to get there. Now they're getting there, and they're doing the right thing. They're just gradually taking away the stimulus.
Chad, for you, for the equity market, what does this data set across your dashboard mean this morning for you?
Well, it confirms that the economy is strong. You're going to have earnings that will continue to be strong, even when you X out the tax break, because you have top-line growth that's pretty robust. And then going into 2019, we're still continuing to expect positive returns. But keep in mind, everything that your guest said, you're going to have a tremendous amount of volatility as you start to see the dollar shift higher and the rate differential aspect of it occur.
A little bit more on the FX market a little bit later, but on the equity market, you mentioned the earnings story. This market hasn't really reacted to the earnings story at all over the last month. The earnings have been absolutely solid. Pick a sector, banks, tech over the last week as well. Yet the equity market, in terms of the price action, not responding positively. Why?
Well, that's that push and pull between the risk-free rate and earnings yield, and also where the yield curve here in the United States has been gravitating towards. That's the critical reason. But keep in mind, I mean, you had about a 20+% return within the equity markets because of those expected earnings that you're seeing today.
Yeah. And George Rusnak mentioning the risk-free return. A lot of people going crazy about 3% on the 10-year. Let's just look at where 6-month bills are, 1-year treasuries, 2-year treasuries, and the move that we've seen over the last 9 months. That's where the real move has been, George.
Agreed. I think 3% is just a number. It's a psychological factor. We don't necessarily think it's going to impact the markets, either the bond market or the equity markets. I think you have to look at the flattening yield curve. You have to look at the move up in the short part of the yield curve, which is one of the reasons why we've actually shifted to favor that short part of the yield curve right now.
Yeah, you can buy the front end.
We have. We think that from a risk-reward perspective, if you look at sort of Sharpe ratios, it makes a lot more sense to be in the short part of the curve right now.
And that's the question a lot of people are asking, James. Why should I take the additional credit risk for what, a 50 basis point pickup on a 10-year? Why should I take the additional credit risk when spreads are so tight? We've started to see what's happening in equity. Maybe that could bleed. Why should you take the extra risk? Why not de-risk?
It depends which markets you're looking at. From a bond market, I can understand that when you shift to the shorter end of the curve, particularly because you've got so much supply coming. But from an equity market perspective, you ask why the equity market's not reacting to the really good earnings. Yeah. It's partly just a function of the fact we had a correction in January. It's caused people to be more cautious. Every meeting I now have with an investor, it's all a big discussion about how close it is to the end of the cycle. But I still think we're probably potentially a couple of years away. If you're a couple of years away, far too early to get defensive.
Well, just in terms of the growth has been fading. We had the economic data out of Europe, Spain, France, disappointing. The UK posting its slowest quarterly growth since 2012. Bloomberg's Michael McKee, our international economics and policy correspondent, joining us now for a little bit more. Mike, your view on what's been happening with the data worldwide, is that global synchronized growth story still intact?
It is, John, but it's really, in the first quarter, a global synchronized lousy weather story. That's what we saw in Great Britain. A lot of talk about what's going to happen with Brexit and the economy is supposed to slow, but this is really based on the beast from the east, as they called the storms there over the winter. It really depressed economic activity in the UK. You can see in the chart how low it was. It's really a weather story. So now we watch to see whether we get a rebound or not. This probably takes the Bank of England out of its next rate move. They'll wait and see if the economy rebounds and how prices react to that. But it was the same story across the channel. The French saw a weather-related slump in first quarter GDP. Their first quarter GDP is about the same as the United States, so they're not doing too badly given all the strikes and the weather problems that they've had. But it's the same across the continent.
Okay, once again, it's April 27th, 2018, 9:06 a.m. Okay, once again, I'm saying this again. It's April 27th, 9:06 a.m., 2018. We're looking out of the windows of 255 West 43rd Street, 6-4, looking twin chimneys belonging to John's Pizzeria, and their entrance open to the public is 260 West 44th Street in Manhattan. So, it's my screen window. Let me zoom out. Okay, I'm using this trying to videotape two cameras at once, just to prove that I'm doing what I'm saying I'm doing.
I'd feel a bit less comfortable about that. My view is that the dollar's been basing for a little while. Most investors that I speak to don't own the dollar. Our own data suggests that real money investors are as short as they've been in the last 6 or 7 years. There's a good chance the dollar has a bit of a rally here. And if there's one space in fixed income which I think is really crowded, it's EM fixed income. So I would be a bit cautious in that space.
Chad, you mentioned the FX piece of the puzzle. Is that something you've got your eye on as well?
Yeah, absolutely, because as you see the curve here go higher, it's going to eventually apply pressure to the US dollar. Dollar will continue, we believe, over the course of the next 3 to 6 months, accrete in value perhaps by 2 to 4%. With that said, we would be light on EM equities at this point. We think that is a credit trade even on the equity side, and that a lot of the fiscal stimulus and credit creation that's on the China front could perhaps potentially be tempered.
James, your shop did some fantastic research in that much followed fund manager survey that you guys do. Do you see the crowded trade in EM fixed income also reflected into EM equity as well?
Yeah, I mean, look, people have been raising their allocations to emerging equities, and I think, if we have the next 3 to 6 months where you end up with rising yields, rising dollar, it's not an environment where emerging markets tend to outperform. Fundamentally, further out, we're still very constructive, but if you ask me on a 3 to 6 month view, I'd rather own Europe or Japan than emerging markets.
Would that be the same for you, George?
Yeah, actually, fundamentally, longer out is actually where we like EM debt, and the question is, where do you take your risk within fixed income? And we prefer to take it in EM debt versus high yield here domestically right now.
George Rusnak of Wells Fargo, sticking with us alongside James Barney of Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, and Chad Morganlander of Washington Crossing Advisors, all sticking with me. Coming up on the program, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un crossing the border to declare the era of peace with South Korea. That conversation is coming up next. For the markets, we are about 20 minutes away from the opening bell. The story cross-asset looking like this. Futures on the S&P going nowhere despite some really solid numbers from Amazon, Intel, and elsewhere from Microsoft. The story in the bond market looking a little something like this for treasuries. 3% was the banner number we saw earlier in the week, a milestone for the treasury bears. The first time we crossed this since 2014. We dropped back below it, south of 3 at 297 and down a basis point on the day so far. In the FX market, we see a little bit of dollar strength against the euro, a whole lot more against sterling. Sterling weakness really the story in FX today, and dollar yen going nowhere at 109 spot 27. From New York, this is Bloomberg.
The Hewlett-Packard Enterprise Green Room is brought to you in partnership with Bloomberg. Hewlett-Packard Enterprise, accelerating next.
The electric car industry has spiked demand for cobalt, whose price has recently increased over 100%. Cruise Cobalt has amassed 8 of the highest historically graded cobalt projects in North America, with multiple work programs now underway.
Exploring the heart of historic Europe with Viking, you'll get closer to iconic landmarks, to local life and legendary treasures, as you sail on board our patented, award-winning Viking longships. You'll enjoy many extras, including Wi-Fi, cultural enrichment from ship to shore, and engaging excursions. Viking, voted #1 river cruise line by Condé Nast readers. Learn more at vikingcruises.com.
How much horsepower does this thing got?
Looking good, babe.
Are you filming?
At Booking.com, we can't guarantee you'll be any good at that water jet thing. But we can guarantee the best price on a hotel like this one. Or any home, boat, treehouse, yurt, whatever. We guarantee the best price on all kinds of accommodations. Booking.com. Booking.yeah.
You have to celebrate your mother because of all the things that she's done for you.
My mom is so caring and so thoughtful.
The whole point of Mother's Day is you're with your family, your DNA.
I think the 23andMe test would be such a great gift to give to someone, especially your mother, and to do it together would be really cool.
This is an absolutely amazing Mother's Day gift.
Celebrate Mother's Day with 20% off each kit at 23andme.com or a local retailer.
17 minutes away from the opening bell here in New York City. Good morning to you all from New York. Futures going absolutely nowhere. A peaceful futures picture and a peaceful Korean Peninsula as well. An historic moment unfolding on the border of North and South Korea. Leaders of the two countries meeting in the demilitarized zone, making an agreement to end in a 7-decade war and pursue the complete denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. Kim Jong-un becoming the first North Korean leader to cross his country's southern border. Joining us now from the demilitarized zone is Stephen Engel, Bloomberg Chief North Asia correspondent. Stephen, a historic day. Just talk to me about how this is playing out on the ground where you are.
Yeah, absolutely. A momentous day here on the Korean Peninsula. And behind me, they're starting to turn the lights off. The bridge that goes into the DMZ there, that's the rail bridge. The pomp and circumstance is pretty much over now. The final banquet completed within the last hour. We had the attack helicopters head back to Seoul this way just a few minutes ago, and the presidential motorcade, the South Korean presidential motorcade, came across the Unification Bridge about 20 minutes or so ago after the banquet completed. A very long day, but a momentous one that saw Kim Jong-un, the North Korean supreme leader, stay in the DMZ for about 12 hours. Much of that was on the South Korean side. The first time ever a leader from North Korea came across, stepped across that threshold into South Korea. In fact, earlier today, Kim Jong-un grabbed Moon Jae-in's hand and said, "You want to come to the north?" And they stepped across back into the north. So it was quite a momentous occasion, and they said all the right things. The optics were perfect. It was fairly scripted. That moment between the two sides there was probably the most unscripted part, but quite an occasion here where the two nations have, in a joint declaration, decided that they will strike a peace deal by the end of this year, ending that de facto state of war. Of course, they had the armistice in 1953, but they're going to have a peace deal now and complete denuclearization of the peninsula at some point. At least that's the claim.
Stephen, a long day for those two respective leaders, a long day for you as well, so we're grateful that you're sticking with us. I think for a lot of people, and only a couple of months ago when we were having threats of missile launches, and now here we are with a declaration of peace between the two leaders. It was only a few weeks ago that the North Korean leader went in a train, reportedly to China, and then came back again to North Korea. Where's the most pressure come from here? The Chinese, and how influential was the US role in the role of President Donald Trump?
Well, you have to give some credit to the United States. No matter what your politics are, there was pressure exerted by Donald Trump, a little bit of a different approach. Maybe I look at it that Donald Trump and the White House looked at it that they could be the bad guy here. Because I've long argued that the only way you're going to get reconciliation, maybe not reunification quite yet, but reconciliation on the Korean Peninsula is going to be if the two Koreas agree to reconcile. It's not going to come from pressure necessarily. It's not going to be the United States saying, you guys reconcile, you guys denuclearize. It's not going to be from the Chinese necessarily, or the Russians, or the Japanese, all the other parties. It's going to be between the Koreans. So perhaps the United States, by playing the bad guy, brought the North Koreans and the South Koreans together today in a very momentous afternoon and actually full day, 12 hours, where Kim Jong-un was in the DMZ.
Bloomberg Stephen Engel, great work and fantastic reporting on this historic day for many people in the North and the South. Thank you very much, sir. The President of the United States tweeting the following this morning: Korean War to end. The United States and all of its great people should be very proud of what is now taking place in Korea. Joining us now, Kevin Cirilli, Bloomberg Chief Washington Correspondent. The President made it a foreign policy priority, Kevin. He put maximum pressure on the Chinese and on the Koreans to make a move. Just how significant of a foreign policy win are we seeing playing out here for the President of the United States?
Very significant, but also it's being greeted with caution by Republicans and Democrats alike here inside Washington. Look, every source inside the intelligence and national security world that I've spoken to on the issue of North Korea says that communication with North Korea is a positive step forward. That said, it ought to be greeted with